Welcome to Destined for Success. I'm your host, Jennifer Takagi, and it is Potapalooza Day. I'm so excited. I love Potapalooza because I get to meet so many people I wouldn't normally meet and come in contact with and get to hang out with and bring them to you. So, my next guest is the one and only amazing Gayle Weill. And Gayle is a psychotherapist and she focuses on multiple. I can talk. Yeah, I do this for a living. She goes into multiple modalities to help people heal, which, as you know, I'm all about healing and energy healing. I love all the modalities. Gail, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so happy to be here and to meet with you and talk about all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. So, we talked just a little bit in the green room about the work that you do. One of the many things you help clients with is anxiety, and you have multiple modalities for that. And with anxiety, so many other things, right, come with that. It's typically not just a one thing, in my experience as a non-licensed psychotherapist. And I love the fact that you do your psychotherapy via Zoom because that just really opens it up. People don't have to leave. They don't have to like make a big deal to get out of the office. It's just like I love all that. So tell me how you got so passionate about this, how you show up in the world, and let's talk about some of the modalities you use.
Yeah, 100%. So I have always wanted to go into the helping profession. I actually started my career off as a nursing major in school. I quickly decided that, going into medical sciences, not my area of expertise. I love instead to be able to talk with people and brainstorm ways to help them be their best selves and to make life a little bit better. That is really just something I really enjoy doing on the daily.
I love that. And I had a situation with a toxic boss, and I call the employee assistance program. So those of you listeners who work for corporations that have employee assistance programs, I highly suggest that you take advantage of it. And I went to see the counselor therapist in that. And she said, "You're sharing too much with your boss. She's taking everything you say, turning it around, and using it against you." And I was like, "But wait, if she asked for three things on the report and I know she needs seven more, I'm going to give her all 10." And she goes, "No. You give her 10 and she asks for 3, she's going to find ways to use that against you. You're trying to treat her like a totally normal person that you would have a conversation with, but that's not the relationship that's going on here. Only give her what she wants." So I'm going to say that a therapist like literally saved my life because it changed the whole dynamic, right? When I showed up differently, it modified the whole dynamic. I would have never thought that could have happened, but lo and behold, it did.
That is so incredibly inspiring. Wow. Isn't it great to be able to talk with an objective person about these things and then they can give you that kind of feedback and then you can see a world of a difference? Wow.
Well, I like to say, and gosh, I don't even know how many years ago it was the first time I said this. When you go see a therapist or a counselor, you get to scream and yell and cry and say all the things you want to say, and you don't have to go to lunch with them. You don't have to work with them, and you don't have to sleep with them
Hmm.
because everybody else in your life kind of falls in one of those categories.
Yeah, yeah. It makes it so that the relationship, the therapeutic relationship, I mean to say, it's all about you. So that is your space to be able to vent without worry about, anything that you owe the therapist. That the idea is that it is an objective person that has experience and knowledge in order to help you.
Ah, I love that. So you mentioned that you can use hypnosis as one of your methods, modalities to help people. How does that work?
Yes. So there's a lot of confusion around hypnosis actually. It's
Do tell. Tell me more.
Yeah. I think a big fear when I say the word hypnosis is that there's some kind of form of mind control, or that I'm going to make the person quack like a duck, or that they won't be able to come out of whatever trance I put them in. Hypnosis is not like it. is shown in the movies. It's not mind control whatsoever. It's simply being in a state, a brain state, where you can speak directly to the subconscious mind. And actually, people are hypnotized on a daily basis and don't even realize it. It's
Oh, do
interesting.
tell.
Yeah. So, let's say, you're watching a show on TV, for example, and, a commercial comes on and you're zoning out during that commercial. You're not paying attention whatsoever. Your hearing is still on, meaning like you don't turn your ears off. You can still hear what's going on. You're just not paying attention. When you're in that state, that's like the lightest state of hypnosis. You're in a form of hypnosis and you don't even realize it. So you might then find yourself at the supermarket one day doing your grocery shopping. Maybe you're in the cereal aisle, and maybe I'm dating myself, but there used to be so many cereal commercials. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so you might be in the cereal aisle buying yourself some, I don't know, frosted flakes, and you're like, whoa, I wasn't thinking of doing that, but sure,
I'll get
So
those.
yeah, yeah. It's really when you're in that state of mind where you're, just tuning everything out, not paying attention, but you're still able to hear, you are in a state of hypnosis. It's interesting.
Well, that's interesting you say that because when I started seventh grade, it was a new school and they had like an orientation day for the seventh graders. And one of the teachers suggested you get a tape recorder and record all your notes and worksheets and tests from the class to study. And so I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, I want a tape recorder because they recommended a tape recorder. And he goes, Are you going to make straight A's? And I said, No, probably not. I mean, that guy was realistic about it.
Sure.
But I would all the way through seventh grade, through high school graduation, and all the way through college. I recorded all of my notes. And then while I was painting my nails, while I was cleaning my room, doing whatever else, I just played it over and over again. And again, I wasn't hyper aware of what was going on. It was just like playing in the background. And I had to give it I didn't have to. I was given the honor of doing an hour and a half keynote opening speech at an event, and I kind of had my talk together. So I recorded it and then I listened to it the whole way there. But then when I got there, I was able to just step on the stage and do the talk, right? It was kind of effortless, but I hadn't really considered that listening to it 20 times, I was kind of in a light state of hypnosis and getting that information embedded.
Your subconscious mind was absorbing all of that.
Yeah, amazing. So I mentioned before we started or as we were starting that I have a free opt-in on my website for a meditation to help reduce anxiety. And so what are what are your suggestions if someone felt like they were suffering from anxiety to reduce that?
That's a really good question. It depends on what is causing the anxiety, I would say. A lot of times with anxiety, we are very much, worried about something that's going to happen in the future, or we're dwelling on something that has happened in the past that really bothered us. A big thing about anxiety is that we're not really living in the present moment. But the present moment is all we really have. So it's important to keep that in mind and, try to brainstorm what is getting in the way of being in the present moment. Is it biochemical? Is there a specific like social anxiety, for example, where you're in social situations and your heart is just racing and you can't help that? Is that like a biochemical symptom you're experiencing, and what can we do to address that? That's just one example. Is it like is there a particular situation in which cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, it addresses thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and how they're all interconnected. So if I'm thinking something, that means I will feel a certain way about that thought. I can change my thinking, and then that will then change my behavior and change my feelings about it. But sometimes, and this is where hypnosis could be incredibly beneficial, sometimes you have somebody who, they are able to change their thinking, but their feelings are not changing with the thought. And in that case, hypnosis could be really helpful because that means that there's something else going on there subconsciously to be as a barrier so that, they're not able to align their thoughts and their feelings.
I love that because in the work that I do, they've done some research and they've determined that a trapped emotion is roughly the size of your fist. So
Hmm.
if you're walking around with this fist or multiple fists full of emotions, literally inside your body, it's blocking everything, right? And that in and of itself causes anxiety because things aren't working well or properly. So is there
Absolutely.
something like I can do? Like you said, if you could change what you think, then that can lead to changing what you feel. But if it's a little too big, then the feelings may not catch up as quickly as changing the thoughts. And I appreciate that distinction. But so is there something I personally can do to address anxiety that I might be feeling, or knowing if it's like a sometimes things are like a reasonable amount. Like you've got a big presentation at work coming up. Well, there's going to be a little anxiety about that.
Sure.
But sometimes it goes over the edge and then you're staying up late at night and then you might be drinking trying to get to go to sleep and then you're
Mhm.
drinking too much and then it escalates from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. There is such a thing as healthy anxiety. Anxiety could be good, if it motivates us to, let's say, using your example, Jennifer, you have a presentation. A healthy amount of anxiety will get you, preparing for that presentation. But if it gets to the point where you're up at night and you're just sweating and you can't turn it off, your thoughts are spiraling, then what do you do? I think when that happens, it's important to identify what exactly it is you're anxious about and be able to target it so that, you can make it a little bit better and function, in a healthy way. So, for example, with the presentation, are you anxious because you're worried about what other people are going to think? Are you afraid that you're going to make a mistake? If that's the case, let's talk about it and figure out how we can make you feel more confident, you know? And if there's something like maybe a past experience where you presented and it didn't go well and you were really embarrassed, then your subconscious mind, it's very possible, took that in and incorporated it for you as labeling yourself as somebody who cannot present. And therefore, that is what is causing anxiety. And maybe we then need to target that in hypnosis.
Oh wow, because then in hypnosis you can specifically identify that pattern.
It is a quicker way of trying to get the subconscious mind to consider different thoughts about that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So anxiety is just kind of one of the areas. What's another area where we could like take, I'm going to say, more control, be more in charge of our life and the outcomes?
Mindset too, like I think one thing that's important for folks to realize is that we get to choose how we view any given situation, or and also how we view ourselves. We don't have to label ourselves in a certain way, but we tend to as human beings because we compare ourselves to other people, or we have ambitions that we haven't yet achieved. And unfortunately, that can make it so that we label ourselves a certain way, but we get to choose how we view ourselves and how we view any given situation. So I think, practicing that mindset skill is really important.
So if I want to practice that mindset skill, I love that. And I love the way you said that. Like, what is something I could do?
Well, if we use the example of presenting, let's say, you're feeling really nervous. You're really worried that the audience is going to laugh at you. I think one thing you can do is really question that. How accurate is that? How likely is that to happen? Could it happen? Sure, but is it likely? I would say that yes, there are people in the world who are mean and would laugh, but the majority, I think, of healthy, functioning adults are not like that. And chances are they may even just be scrolling on their phones, not paying attention. The likelihood of people laughing at you is slim in actuality. So, where am I going with this? It really depends on what is causing the anxiety. So, I think you could think about it and challenge those thoughts. I don't know if that's still a little too abstract though.
Well, one thing that Kimberly Crow, one of the co-hosts and founders of Potapalooza, likes to say is, as a speaker, people can be very scared to speak, right? It's like, oh, I'm getting up in front of everybody, I'm putting my message out there. And so several things she said is nobody's ever died on her stage. So when people talk about stage fright, nobody literally has died on her stage. But the other thing is when you show up to speak at something, the majority of the audience is there for you to do well.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so when we make these assumptions, this is just the world according to Jennifer. When we make assumptions that people are terrible and they're horrible and they're going to shred me, okay, that's because we were looking at like some influencer on Instagram that got shredded for something, but they're out there in a whole different way. Like they're showing up differently, they're in a different space. So I think sometimes comparison can cause some of that. Like I watch somebody speak and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I want to incorporate that." And another speaker I might say, "I don't I didn't appreciate that or I didn't think that really added to their speech. So I would recommend we do it differently or she do it differently, he whatever." So and sometimes it's putting that into context. And I don't think you've said the word context, but maybe you have. But I think that's what you've meant in a lot of this. Like, what does that mean? Did it really happen? Is it real? And perceptions obviously are real, but did you die?
Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. Jennifer, I didn't use the word context, but you got it right. That's exactly where I was going with that. We can choose how we view any given situation. We don't have to think of a situation as using the example of stage fright. We don't have to view it as if we're going to be shredded. You know, we can instead, like you said, view it as these people are here for me. They want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah, and I think that shows up this in like whatever area you show up in. There might be one person in your office that's jealous of you, and they might be rooting for you to trip when you take the stage. But everybody else is like, well, what does he or she have to say? And are they going to do it in a way that I can receive the information and it's going to be good? So sometimes we talk ourselves into a lot of panic that doesn't need to be there, in my humble personal opinion. And several people on that I've interviewed on my podcast have talked about um and Kimberly Crow wrote a book on it, shifting your narrative, like looking at it from a different angle, changing your perception. Is journaling a good way to like get a handle on some of this?
Journaling is fantastic. It's a very good way to alleviate anxiety. You get whatever is floating in your mind. It can feel so big, when you have all these worries or anxieties. Getting it on paper sometimes can be a really beneficial thing because then, you come up with new realizations and you realize that maybe it's not as big as I think it was. Journaling can be incredibly helpful. I highly approve of it.
I'm listening to an audiobook. I can't remember what it's called right now. Blah 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 blah. It's really good, but I haven't finished it yet. But one of their things in that kind of goes along with the whole shifting your narrative, shift your perception is how is it serving me to feel this way?
Mm,
And if it's not serving me well, then am I willing to change part of it?
yeah.
Because sometimes we're not willing to let all of it go, but it's like, okay, so what's working in this anxiety? Like you said, it could fuel me to get my presentation done, do it better, show up more present. Or is it like debilitating me and I can't take the stage? Like
And if
what
that's the
what
case,
level are we?
yeah, for sure. And if it's to the point of debilitating, don't lose hope. Ask for help. whether that be from a loved one or it be from a therapist, an objective person, that can help you with this shift in mindset. It doesn't have to be so hard. It can feel really hard and it can feel like it's not a choice. Anxiety can be absolutely debilitating, and maybe you don't know how to get out of feeling differently. And that's okay. That's when it's time to lose any kind of shame. Ask for help. It's okay. And if there is somebody that is shredding you to pieces, and maybe your subconscious mind is learning that, hey, I have reason to be anxious, well, how true is that? Why would we even want to give any kind of weight to somebody that would do something like that to someone? Their
Right.
opinion their opinion isn't important if there's somebody that is cruel and makes fun of you. We don't have to internalize that.
Do I have to take that? I love it. I believe it's Jack Canfield will say, cancel, cancel. Like, I don't even want that in my world. His is cancel, cancel. Somebody else said, I erase that. Like, I'm just going to erase that right now. And they just physically move their hand back and forth like they're erasing a chalkboard. I'm going
Mm.
to erase that because I'm not taking that in. That is not true for me. It's not right. When someone gives you feedback, it is a gift. And it is a gift you can accept and receive, or you can leave it where it is and not take it because it may not be true for you. So there are some things I'm like, that is not true for me.
Yeah, and to have the confidence to know that you really don't have to take any kind of criticism. Sometimes criticism, if it's constructive, is incredibly helpful. If we don't get this kind of feedback, how are we going to improve? But if it truly is something that's mean or anxiety provoking, you really don't have to take it. And taking it a step further, like, how do you not take it? Maybe developing your confidence. Self confidence is incredibly important with this kind of thing.
And I want to throw one thing out on that confidence business as we wrap up our time together. It's been lovely visiting with you, Gail.
Yes. Thank you,
And that
Jennifer.
is, confidence is built, and add on to this, please. Confidence is built by recognizing the things that you did well.
Sure.
So a big deal for me. I'm the youngest of four, and people would say, we're leaving at 8 o'clock. I didn't know what 8 o'clock was. We're leaving it in 30 minutes. I didn't know what 30 minutes was. So when I learned to tell time, and I knew what 8 o'clock was, I knew what 30 minutes was, I knew what a quarter till was, and it's not 25 minutes. Spoiler alert, it's 15 minutes because I heard that actually happen. I can say when none of my tech works, when my client doesn't show, when the payment doesn't come through, when all the things that happen as an entrepreneur happen, and I'm losing that confidence of how I want to show up in the world, it's super stupid. But I say, but I know how to tell time. I can read a digital clock, I can read an analog clock, I can tell time. That's a little simple thing, but then I can build from that. What else can I do? Like, what else can I do? Because for all the audience members out there, you can do way more than you give yourself credit for. And it's important. All those little pieces are important.
Yes, I love that so much. You can tell time. That's so empowering.
It's a big deal for me. So as we wrap it up, what's some closing thoughts for our audience?
Yeah. I would say if there's any kind of takeaway I want people to have, it's don't give up hope if you're feeling down. If you're feeling like things are really hard and anxiety is getting in your way and like you really don't have a handle on it, please, there is help out there. Don't feel any kind of shame. We're all human. We all have things we need to work on, and know that there is hope.
I love that. Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Takagi with Destined for Success, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.